We want to chat a little bit about some weather patterns tonight. One of the big questions we always get in canyoneering, especially with new upcoming canyoneers and those just getting into the sport for the first time, is how do I know when it's safe to go into a canyon? What do I look at? What are my weather patterns? I mean, flash floods can be a big deal, and rightfully so. I mean, it can be one of those life or death things. This past week, it's been kind of on the news a lot with the flash flood that happened out in Little Wild Horse Canyon. My sincere condolences, of course, for all that. It's just tragic to see those things on the news. And we've had a lot of flash flood related incidences over the past several years, though, too. I hit up Steve and I hit up Adolfo and thought maybe we could get together with some of us from kind of the ACA seniority and talk a little bit about what weather patterns mean in canyons and what we should look for and things. So you guys want to take a second, maybe introduce yourselves a little bit and jump into it.
Go ahead, Adolfo.
Name is Adolfo Isasi. I've been canyoneering now for about 5-7 years, I think. I started with the ACA probably by my second year when I realized that I wanted some training. And for the last couple of years, once Rick Green took as president of the ACA, he invited me to be on the board of the ACA, and I've been helping with the ACA social media presence and with training, with assessments, helping Steve with the educational program of the ACA, and it's just trying to promote canyoneering, promote safety in canyoneering through training and education.
Excellent.
And weather awareness when you go into canyons is part of that education and training. Pass it on to Steve.
Thanks, Adolfo. I'm Steve Shoki. I am the Director for Assessments and Training for the ACA. Currently, name of the game is keep canyoneers safe. Whether you're just getting into it or you're still learning or you've been in it for years, there's always something to learn. I'm always picking up things when I go with other people that help keep everybody safe, keep the group safe. If we never have another injury or fatality, it'll be too soon. So that being the mission of the ACA, that's why we get together and do things like this. And weather's a huge part of that. So that's why we're here.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Now, when I first hit up these two gentlemen, we posted on the Facebook pages this morning about this. We've got a couple of questions and responses from individuals regarding weather and what we should consider. But if any of you got comments as we go through this live stream, questions, throw them in the comment section and we'll try and pull those out and answer those questions live for you as well.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I first start teaching canyoneering, some of the things that we talk about is going to be our weather patterns, our weather forecasting, our watersheds, and how we look at different areas and whether we make that decision for go or no go. I think that's kind of the basis of what we want to talk about today. I think one of those questions, Adolfo, you said had to do with go or no go.
Right, that seems to be the most in different wording, but that seems to be everybody pops into the canyoneering groups and wants an easy answer of like, what is your cutoff percentage of precipitation for go or no go, right? And unfortunately, there is no one easy answer for that. As Steve mentioned, as we were chatting a little bit on the pre session, it's a process, right? It's a process that starts, when you are planning the canyon with the logistics, maybe a week prior, a couple of days prior, the night prior, that morning. It's a process of you visiting the weather forecast on different sources, from websites to your app to Doppler radar or sat imaging, and refining that decision to the day you decide to is a go or no go. There is no dry cut answer for that.
Right. I agree 100%. Some days we'll get out into the canyon and we've hiked all the way into the head of the canyon ready to drop that first rappel, and we change our minds and back out.
Mm-hmm.
It's a constant process that you're always reevaluating. What are some of the first initial processes that you two gentlemen would go through when you're starting to plan a trip?
My initial process, so like if I had a trip coming up next weekend, which in fact I do, is to start to tune into the weather, the overall weather pattern that's going on, or the cycle. Have we got a low going through right now, or is there a high developing, or is it going to be in transition? So I can get a feel for about what pattern is going to be in place when the actual trip happens. If it's a high is going to be building, then great, we're going to be totally in the clear. If it's going to be in transition, it might get a little iffy. If a low is going to be start moving in, we might be calling the trip and doing something else entirely.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, for me, it starts that way too. I locate the area of the canyon I want to drop in for the trip, or the series of canyons on the area. And I start visiting the weather forecast for that area, usually on the websites for weather tracking, either Weather Underground or NOAA. I have lived long enough in the area that I'm living at, outside Zion, or visiting a lot of areas, to know that getting familiar with the weather patterns, right? During the winter, it's one kind of weather pattern. You get in fronts from the north, right? As the weather switches to more like a summer mode, at least on my area, all the weather fronts start coming from the south, from the Pacific. So I start monitoring all that, and I start to realize, is this gonna be a good weekend or a bad week for this?
Mm-hmm.
Or no, right? So even then, I've started already tuning my decisions. As we were talking about, to avoid the frustration of feeling a lot of pressure to drop in the canyon, you are better off with a couple of options of canyons that take either a lesser time to do the canyon, or have egress routes in case of bad weather. Once a couple of days or the day before the canyon, I start really taking a look at the sat images. Mm-hmm. and the Doppler radar.
Yep.
Right. And especially in the morning, before I lose that connection for either on my cell phone for the Doppler radar, I just check, okay, how's the weather gonna look for, as the cloud coverage or clouds dumping over the canyon. And that may be the time where I pull the trigger and say, no, it just looks too iffy, right? Yeah. If even it looks like, it's a go, I go in, and the last resource that I have on my watch a pressure meter. So if I see a sudden drop on atmospheric pressure, that means bad news, right? Especially in the monsoon season. Mm-hmm. That if I'm already in the canyon, I decided that I'm gonna go, the weather said that the rain is gonna start around 4 in the afternoon, right? And even on the Doppler radar says like, yeah, confirmed those clouds are rolling in around 4 in the afternoon, and it's lunchtime, and all of a sudden I see my watch registering a sudden drop in pressure. I start putting my antennas up, like, okay, and I'm constantly looking up if the clouds are rolling early. So, but yeah, it's the process going from all the way from several days before dropping in, the morning of dropping in, and when you are in canyon, if you have an instrument to measure atmospheric pressure, just taking a look at that too.
Yeah, excellent. I think it sounds like most of our processes between all of us are pretty similar. I'm curious, Adolfo, you spend most of your time out in the Zion area, correct, when you do canyons?
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, I'm outside Zion.
And how often do you have cell service out in that way as you're getting into the canyons? I kind of picture you've got a little bit more service than I would out here.
Oh, yeah, that's probably true. I think here in Zion, I can get a good reading, a good reception to take one last look at the Doppler radar in Springdale.
Okay.
In Springdale, it's pretty good. Once you leave Springdale and you start entering the canyon, it goes from LTE 4G to 3G to 1X to nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah.
0, right?
Okay. Most of my stuff, obviously, I take off out towards North Wash and Lake Powell area and whatnot when I go, and I pretty much lose cell service as soon as I leave Blanding. So I'm driving for almost an hour and a half with no cell service at all.
So for you, is leaving Blanding, that's your last check?
Yep, pretty much. At least for any type of internet service. I still have text messaging for about a half an hour. But there's not enough data service out there. So I'm pretty much, by the time I leave home to head out, I've got to have my weather forecasting checks already done. And
so just to close it up a little bit and talking about our areas, for example, here in Zion, my last check is on Springdale. And I know that the watershed in Zion and all the canyons in Zion is pretty much a slick rock. They are small, the watersheds are small, but it's all slick rock. So when I'm looking at the weather, I'm really looking that those clouds are not rolling on top of the canyon, of the main Zion Canyon.
Mm-hmm.
If you get just a little bit of precipitation on those small watersheds, but it's all slick rock, it's like 10, 15, 20 minutes, it's bad news. It's bad news. So sometimes we get the weather, but it's like on Carmel Junction, or rolling, especially in the monsoon season, rolling towards the east of Zion, towards Kanab. So the weather patterns are rolling up, and I see my Phoenix friends getting hammered every afternoon of the Grand Canyon, getting hammered with monsoon, but it seems to be like a barrier around Kanab. And sometimes it really rolls over towards Zion, and it doesn't take much for the canyons in Zion to flash.
Right. Another solution to your problem, Jared, was if you have a Garmin InReach, I don't know if you can see that.
yeah, I
But,
can see
it
it.
has actual weather forecast that you can get on it wherever you're at. And like this has the temperature, precipitation, the percent, but it also goes into the humidity. That's something I watch. If relative humidity goes up, you know something's coming in, and that also has pressure on it. So if you can see the pressure going down on your device right before you drop in, you know there's a problem.
Is
So,
that
InReach is very handy that way.
is that feature part of the basic package?
That
Or is
one
that-
I don't know. I don't know about that one. I think it is, the difference is there between their premium and their basic weather alerts. If you get a premium, I think that costs, I think it's $1 or something like that. But to me, that's worth it. If I'm concerned at all, I'll get a premium weather forecast for the spot I'm at, and it'll tell me the relative humidity, pressure, and percentage, and so forth. and I can make some determinations from there.
You might have just sold me on an inReach. I carry a Spot. I do carry a Spot, but I didn't know I could check weather forecasts and stuff
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah.
That might have just changed my whole my
Last
whole
time-
PLB system.
Last time I checked, I have also the InReach. The different levels of subscription, just you have an allowance for messaging, right?
Mhm.
And every time you check the weather, it counts as a messaging interaction.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, depending on, sometimes I think the economy or the cheapest plan has a very limited, like only 5 messages per month or something like that. So if you check on the weather, you burn one of those 5.
Oh,
Mm.
I've got the next one.
He's gonna
where
up his
it's
package
got
plan
40
now.
messages, so yeah.
Nice.
Anyway, yeah, handy device to have right at the head of the canyon to take one last look to see if there's anything coming your way.
I like that. I like that idea. I'm gonna have to look into that a lot harder now. So, yeah, Brandon on the comments here says we're pretty new to canyoneering. If no weather issues when entering, but you hear thunder while down climbing, bail immediately. Absolutely. If you get any sort of indication that you're going to get weather, I think Adolfo mentioned that a little bit. It's really good to just look at alternate plans or something else. And like you're mentioning, Brendan, if you get it while you're down climbing, if you can still retreat back out of the canyon, better to live for another day.
Mhm.
Yeah, this is where it's good to have a escape plan or an egress plan for if you do get down into the canyon. Okay, where's our next spot out? Where's our high ground? So forth. That's a good point. The Keyhole 7 went in with blue skies, but while they got in the canyon, that's when the thunderstorms cropped up. There's not a good lot of places out of Keyhole.
Right. Mhm. That's another thing when you're checking your beta, and if you are iffy about the weather forecast, just really concentrate on the committed areas, right? Once in a lot of canyons you enter and you're absolutely committed. There is no seeking high ground. There is, and that's really bad.
Yeah, sometimes when that monsoon season starts coming around, you really need to start picking and choosing your canyons wisely. Of course, the Keyhole 7 issue, that's, I mean, just like the little wild horse and stuff last week, that's kind of one of those freak storms that wasn't really forecasted or anything. So,
It was afternoon though. That's where I try and get canyons done in the morning and be out. We're finishing by noon, not starting.
Mhm.
So
yeah, good point. Good point. With monsoon season, you definitely want early starts and try and get those canyons done by noon.
Right. There have been cases where I've been involved in doing an outing on a canyon, and part of the logistics is like, okay, it's either it's monsoon season, or if you play the what if game. If I'm in this canyon and all of a sudden I need to start speeding up the last 5 rappels, can this team do it? Right. Am I gonna put myself or others at risk by rushing, right? Or I'm confident of sending 2 guys and said, hey, let's leapfrog. Everybody rush to the front, set up rappels, and let's move. But if you have someone that is still a little bit green, has not set up any rappels, that's probably not a good idea to do that. Right?
Yeah, monsoon season gets really rough for taking noobs into canyons when you've got a little bit more time pressure and stuff. It can definitely, even as a guide, it's one of those time frames where I really have to pick the canyons well, not over book the group. I don't like large groups during that season, and be able to even pick canyons that only have a couple of short rappels or something, even that we can keep moving on, and just pick those canyons appropriately.
Yep, that's right. That's right.
So, what are some of the things that? Well, let me go back. We talked a little bit about Weather Underground and what you use for that. And I know one of the questions that we had regarded some of the apps that we use. You mentioned Adolfo, Weather Underground, and NOAA and stuff that you use. Steve, what else would you throw in there? I use Weather Underground exclusively, pretty much. I really like it on my phone and then on the computer. Is there anything you would add in there?
No, I use the NOAA.gov site, and I'm looking at the water vapor and then the direction of flow typically, and then Doppler. So those are the main items I'm looking at. And typically that's either the day before, usually day before, day of, and at last point of reception, just so I can see what's how much humidity or moisture is in the air and which direction it's moving. That's mainly the sites I visit.
Yeah, my last check. So I check Weather Underground the night prior, but the last check I do before I lose my reception is actually on a Doppler radar app. There are several of them out there. I've used something called Radar Pro, and the last check I'm doing is actually seeing the actual clouds rolling over the area, the cloud coverage and the saturation of the clouds rolling over the area. And it's doing the animation 2 hours prior and 2 hours predicting. So I can go like, okay, I see how these things are moving. And that's when I'm doing my last decision point with the Doppler radar. I also check last minute prediction for not only the chance for precipitation, but the actual inches of rain that is expected to do. Mm-hmm. So sometimes you get 30, 40 starts looking like, it's kind of high, but you see it's like 0.01 inches of rain. Okay, so then you do cross reference that with your Doppler radar, and you can see, okay, it's really not that bad, right? Monsoon season, right? You see like it's 50%, 1 point something inches of rain, and you see that thing rolling close to the canyon. Okay, not so good, right? Not so good. And of course, if by the time things start creeping up into the 60%, and you cross-reference that with the Doppler radar, I mean, the whole area is covered by clouds. Usually when at least on this area, when you start seeing like 60, 70% rain, it's like, yeah. And you cross-reference that with the satellite imaging, you start seeing like, yeah, the whole area is covered by clouds, and it's a substantial precipitation getting done is clearly like no-go, right? It's a no-go day.
I think that's probably one of the hardest things for people to grasp onto or feel comfortable with is what percentage of moisture forecast do I bail at? Some people say 10% forecast is too much.
Yeah.
Sounds like you're going out at 60% still.
Here on this area, let's say if I have a 60%, and then when I look at the satellite imaging, and there is a lot of, it's basically cloud coverage a lot, and I take a look at the precipitation, yeah, it's a no-go. However, if I see like it's, let's say monsoon season, I see like it's 60%, and it's a half an inch to an inch precipitation, and as expected, you can see clear clouds east of Zion. So there is like, okay, I know it may not cross over the cliffs over Zion, it may stay over there on Kanab, but I know my risk. So like as Steve said, in that case, if I have a good team and it's a 6-hour canyon and we have a 6 a.m. start, yeah, okay.
Still
Mhm.
going for it.
Right. But again, knowing that I can achieve an early start and it's a canyon that I feel confident that a team that everybody can pitch in with speeding things up. Yeah, sure. I think, for example, in Zion, we did that Echo when Echo was open. Now has been closed for a couple of years. Yeah, we did Echo under those conditions several times. There was one time when everything went like that. We woke up in the morning and it was drizzling. The weather changes, right? The predictions. It was supposed to start raining after lunchtime, afternoon. We got with the team at the Zion parking lot, and surprisingly, some members of the team wanted to go. So like, oh no, it's just a drizzle. It's just a drizzle. Let's go. And then it becomes that other very important task to just get everybody down off the cliff, like just get them down and say, no, let's not do it. I mean, it's clearly raining, right?
Yeah. And I've been up at the top of some of the Northwash canyons. Now, those of you that have been in Northwash obviously know that those canyons are fairly short. And I think one of the key factors with you and me, Adolfo, is we frequent the same canyons very often, where you're in Zion and I'm in Northwash area very frequently. We get kind of used to what the weather fronts do in that area. I don't know, Steve, if you've got a particularly favorite spot you frequent all the time. But when you get into these areas, all of your canyoneering's done there, you kind of get used to that. And I've been to the top of some of the Northwash canyons and it started to sprinkle just a little bit on me. And we've made the decision to drop in still, knowing that we would be out of the canyon within an hour.
Sure.
And stuff. So I get that. But for new canyoneers, that's obviously something that they're not going to be accustomed to and
Yes.
not familiar with those canyons. And if it's a risk factor, then obviously not to do it. Don't take that risk.
Don't take it.
Canyons will always be there. Adolfo brought up a good point earlier, is have a plan B, even a plan C, because if it is a no-go, then they're going, well, now what do we do? You've got a plan, go do your plan B.
Right.
That's right.
Right. What are some of the things when you get dropping into the canyon that you're going to be paying attention to? Some of the things that may get you guys to rethink it or say, I think we're going to be okay.
Well, as someone mentioned, if you hear a clear like thunder, wind start blowing up really hard, or clouds rolling on top of you. For me, if I see the atmospheric pressure dropping rapidly, that's a sign that I need to speed things up and let's get out of this canyon fast, right?
The other one is if it starts raining.
Yeah.
I actually start a timer. If it starts raining, I start my stopwatch to get a timer going of, okay, if it stays heavy, we've only got 5 to 10 minutes max to find some hard ground or an escape. So I'm timing of how long from the start of the rain and measuring how hard it is. Is this just a cloud burst? Is this something rolled in unexpected? And we're now okay, we need some high ground or an escape mode. And if it subsides, then we're good. We keep going, but otherwise we're prepared if something shows up.
That's a very good idea, because once you go into that mode, you kind of lose perception of time changes, right? So it's a really good idea to have an objective measure, like, this many minutes and it started raining, right? That's a very good idea.
I really like that idea, Steve. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
I know with, like I said, again, all the canyons I frequent very often, so I'm pretty familiar with where some of the escape routes are. What would you do if you're in a canyon, brand new to you, and it started raining? You have no familiarity with that canyon. Just keep
Hopefully,
busting through.
you're never going to outrun a flash flood. So that's, you got to know that this is hopefully where you've done your homework, you've looked through the beta, you've looked at the maps all before you've even stepped foot in the canyon. So you have a rough idea of, okay, around this bend, we got something, there's a weakness we could get up, or here's some high ground that's over there. That's part of, to me, is doing your homework or researching the canyon beta to understand what is in there, what's available. Some of the Escalante canyons, like Egypt 1, once you pass that first corner, you're committed, or you get past that first drop, you're committed.
Right.
So you need to know that. So if it's not looking good, don't commit yourself.
And that's definitely something you don't want to commit right at the beginning, where you need to do that pre-planning, that weather forecasting, and look at all that stuff so you know what you're getting into before. I know there's been some floods in Escalante that have injured and killed people.
Mhm.
And some of those I think have been ones that could have been predicted. I'm trying to remember back, it's been a while, but definitely once you drop into those, you're in it to win it. So,
So
Right.
I think a lot of it's just knowing that. Go ahead, Adolfo.
Yeah, that will be like a more encouraging question, right, on the forums, right? Like instead of having like the plain, what is the cutoff percentage? If someone asks the question, I mean, how long is a committed section on this canyon before, right?
Mhm.
So right.
yeah,
That would be like a really, okay, so.
yeah,
This
that's
is
really
also,
good.
well, I encourage people to, if you're going to take a group down this and you haven't been down it, go pre-run the canyon so you know yourself, okay, if my group gets in trouble, where am I going to get them out?
Yeah,
That's
correct.
personally one of my own rules. I don't take a group down a canyon I've never been down. That way, I've got my plan in place. I know what I'm going to do in case something happens with my group and I'm not caught there with my pants down, so to speak.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. If I'm going out with friends that are really good, I've got a really good solid group of canyoneers I go out with frequently. I'm okay going out with that. But if I'm taking a group of newbies out into a canyon,
Mhm.
I 100% agree. I'm going to want to have that canyon pre-scoped, pre-planned, and be in there and know the anchors, the drainages, and everything. Definitely before I'm taking a group of newbies into any place.
That story that I was telling you guys, where some canyoneers came from out of the country, I was taking them to canyon. The weather just didn't look good for that morning. And I told them we were going to plan B. They were not happy. We went through the canyon on plan B. Even we started getting rain on the plan B canyon. And as we were, in order to get out of that canyon, I knew the egress route, but it requires some climbing, getting a rope, an anchor at the top, and belaying people up. So the egress route was not that easy either. But once we were on top of the route and they saw the canyon starting to flash, they were happy that we did the plan B canyon. But yeah, it takes some time, a lot of pushing from a canyon leader to convince people that it's not a good idea to go in with bad weather into a canyon.
Yeah, the canyons will always be there.
Absolutely.
Right.
Canyons will always be there for another time. Sorry you lost money and time to get there, but it's better to come back again another time.
Mhm.
Jeff Tucker just posted in the comments, says, check your ego at the parking area and don't be afraid to back out. There's another day.
Yep, amen to
That's
that.
right. That's right.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate you. What other comments do we get, Adolfo, in the forums that we need to address with this?
Well, I think the main recurring question is just give me a cutoff percentage to call it off, right? And as we have been discussing, there is never an easy, a good answer for that.
Yeah, it's
Because
complex.
I think after much discussion, and I have been, yeah, right. You probably, if you just want to give someone a really easy answer, you just go with a very low percentage, and you said if you see this low percentage, don't go. But if that person moves on through canyoneering and learns more, at some point is going to say, you know what, that was a bad answer, right? It was probably too low, too conservative. So again, it goes back to do your homework, start checking a week or 2 weeks prior, check the day before, and understand what you're checking, right? Understand what the percentage of precipitation means. Check also the actual precipitation, inches of precipitation in the area. Check the watershed. Check if that watershed has been saturated or not. Check with other canyoneers, hey, is it what is when this canyon flashes, does it flashes immediately like in Zion? When it flashes in Zion, is the red is above you, right? You were talking about the black hole of White Canyon. That thing can be receiving miles away some rain, and the flash flood is not on top of you, it's coming towards you. So if you're going to pop into a forum to ask for questions, probably those will be more useful questions, more constructive questions. Was the watershed on top, far away? Is the watershed of slick rock? Is it saturated? Does the canyon have egress routes? All those data points will make you a better canyoneer than to say, hey, in the forum, someone told me that is this percentage and that's it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. The percentage factor, it's a hard one to really use as a single solitary meaning for it. So
the data point to make your decision,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. I know there was one comment with regards to watersheds and looking at different watersheds. You mentioned the black hole as being a particularly interesting case study. I've got a couple maps popped up and ready if you guys interested in looking at a couple of watersheds real quick.
Yeah, do it.
Let's see. So when I teach my basic canyoneering classes, we always use the black hole as a case study on watersheds. But I'm going to pop over here to Sandthrax real quick and look at not Leprechaun, but just any of the canyon systems. You want to look at, when we talk about watersheds, you want to kind of look at the mesas that are right around the forks and the drainages of those canyons.
Mm-hmm.
The highest points that are possible as to what's going to be draining into those canyons. And I kind of circle around here, all this stuff. If any water falls on this side of these high points, that's what's going to be draining into Leprechaun Canyon. Any arguments to that factor?
Nope.
No, and it's all once it turned into those fingers, it's all slick rock, so it doesn't need much saturation at all to start collecting.
Correct. It's going to hit this slick rock, and it's going to be an instant waterfall down in these. Obviously depending on the amount of water, but it may take a few seconds or a few minutes. But
yeah, you probably got minutes if you get a direct hit in that canyon.
Correct. A couple of minutes is all with a direct hit. And I wish this had contour lines, because it is easier to kind of look at watersheds a little bit more with contour lines where you can actually see the high points.
True.
But take into consideration that would be kind of your watershed area for the Leprechaun Canyons.
Mhm.
But if I go back to look at the White Canyon and look at Black Hole, let me zoom out here a little bit. So there's the parking lot for the Black Hole right here. And you start your hike down in here.
Oh,
and
yeah.
there's- What's that?
Screen was catching up.
Oh. And then we got the main Black Hole section, and obviously you continue down to the exit point down here. That, in comparison, just that alone is a lot bigger drainage right there than what Leprechaun Canyon would be. But
Yeah.
really, the Black Hole lies, and this is why I use this as such a case study. The Black Hole lies in only one section of this enormous White Canyon here. If I keep zooming out, you've got drainages all around here and here, and all these canyons that keep draining. White Canyon just continues all the way up here into the Natural Bridges and Bears Ears area.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah, it's about, from up here, the whole canyon alone drains down into Lake Powell, is about 35 miles long or so. You can see the Black Hole is pretty much on the bottom end of that whole drainage system. So it could be, and I've seen it. My group went in to the Black Hole on July 24th last year, where we were looking at drainages up here along the highway near Natural Bridges, and White Canyon was dry. But when we got down here and started our hike into the canyon, we hit the bottom of the canyon and it was running down here. And that could be because they had rain up here or anywhere up in these canyons. It could have rained and drained down in. So the watershed is just
Huge.
enormous. We've had instances where the rain has not come down into the Black Hole area. If it's rained the night before, it may not hit there until noon the next day. If you consider that water moves,
Right.
4 or 5 miles an hour,
Mhm.
and if it's flowing down that large canyon, it could be 7, 8 hours later before it hits the Black Hole section. So just a really good case study on looking at drainages and knowing, just look at those high points that go all the way around that drainage that you're going to be entering, and that kind of shows you what your watershed area is going to be.
And those are the good things to know, like Pine Creek and Zion. Watershed is 27 miles away.
Right.
So anything to the east of Zion, don't go in Pine Creek.
Yeah. Yeah, all the, for a long section of that road on the east side, you are running alongside the creek, and all this liquid that you are looking is collecting.
Yep.
Along the road is collecting for Pine Creek, right?
I finally did Pine Creek for my first time last year. It was fun.
Oh, good. It's an awesome canyon.
I don't get I don't get to Zion very often.
Yeah, you should. Well,
you know how many
Not this year.
canyons I pass on my way to get to Zion?
Oh my, yeah.
I have to go all the way around Lake Powell to get over there. So,
Oh,
oh, Jeff's piping in again. Talking about our trip to the Black Hole last year. Just as a follow-up, when we did get down in there and saw it was running, we all bailed. We turned around and walked out.
good for you.
So, not worth it. We went and did Fry Canyon instead. If you've ever done Fry Canyon, it's not worth the drive.
Thanks for the heads up.
Don't drive all the way down here for Fry Canyon.
Yeah, okay. Not that.
But it was our plan B.
Yeah.
We did a backup. So
Yeah, have a backup.
The last tiny section is really pretty.
yeah,
but it's just tiny, right?
Yeah, it's a very tiny canyon, and it is gorgeous in that one section.
Mhm.
Very much so. So
It's almost like a cave where that wrap on the crack, you go in, it's really nice, but you just pass that big pothole and you are already exiting.
right, right.
Yeah.
Yep. So, well, my friends, anything else that we want to wrap up with on weather?
I just wanted to make the mention that the weather skills are so important. They are on the core skills checklist on the ACA skills checklists. The core is the very first one, and both understanding weather, weather patterns, cloud formation, changing weather is on there, and also describing the variables and things that contribute to flash flood risk are on the first section right from the get-go on the ACA skills checklist, the core. That can be found on canyoneering.net, the resource tab. But it's that important that out of the gate, we want people understanding about weather because it's a huge component. You
Right.
got to understand that before you ever go in the canyon.
Mhm.
Yeah, excellent. I agree. That's why I've always kind of included it in the basic class. I mean, it's one of those things. People have asked me before, what are your fears in canyoneering? And in no particular order: flash floods, potholes, and getting stuck. So, flash flood. I mean, it's very important to understand the flash floods and the systems and
Yeah, one of the
Yeah.
big risk items.
yeah,
Yeah, I think unfortunately, when you look at the history of canyoneering for the last 20 years or so, it seems like every time a big flash flood fatality happens in a canyon, the result is that canyoneering just gets more awareness,
right,
right? And I guess for the people who are already on the sport, that awareness results in seeking knowledge, like in this case, right, which is a good thing. After this little horse incident, people are seeking, answers and get more information is a good thing. But
Mhm.
unfortunately, that also attracts even more people to the activity, and makes certain canyons when fatalities happen more prominent in everybody's mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so it's certainly something to press on. That is something that you need to be aware of.
right, right. I completely agree. Um, Caesar Castro in the comments says we were told 20%, but I'm at 10%. I'm assuming he's talking about his precipitation tolerance. So,
Mhm.
10%, if that's where you're at, that's where you're at. Don't,
Yep.
that's your comfort zone and that's your comfort level, and stick with it.
Mhm.
If that's where you want to be, then absolutely. Like
Better
we've
to be
had the
safe.
discussion, it's kind of hard sometimes to know what that percentage is, but I'm good on you for having a set level and doing it. So he goes on and says, but I do go through all the checks that you've noted. I've also been talking in canyons much against my best. Oh, I've been talked into going into canyons against my best judgment. We all do that. So, yeah, sometimes I think probably I won't speak for you guys, but I know I've been talked into canyons sometimes against my better judgment, but
Yeah, I think on everybody's a new guy at some point in their lives. I think I had been out of my comfort zone early on too. I don't think it was weather; it was something else, maybe the rating of the canyon or the skills on the group as overall. But yeah, that happens when you feel like you are just going along with everybody's decision.
Yeah, that brings up a good point of the heuristic trap. Don't don't be quiet or keep your mouth shut. If you feel like there's a problem, speak up.
That's
No
right.
such thing as a halo, expert halo. Just because the lead of the group doesn't think so. If you think there's a problem, you ought to speak up.
Yeah,
That's right. Mhm.
absolutely. 100%. I always tell everybody, and even in search and rescue, it's a known fact that if anybody has any hesitation with anything, you better speak now or forever hold your peace,
Mhm.
type thing. It's everybody has the option to voice their opinions, and if you don't want to go into a canyon because, well, because of any reason, then
Yeah,
that's
you're out of your
choice.
comfort zone. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. So, well, anything else to wrap this up? I think we've covered pretty much everything. I'm just looking back at the comments real quick. I don't have any new comments. I sure appreciate you guys coming on and discussing that. Like you said, I think it's been a hugely important topic lately, partly because of the floods, and
Yep.
we're getting close to monsoon season again. For down here, North Wash, Cedar Mesa, probably Zion too. I think all of southern Utah, kind of the monsoon season hits about July 1st. So
Mm-hmm.
we're
Yep.
getting
Right.
close.
Right.
So, any last words? Steve, we'll start.
Learn the skills and keep yourself safe. That's what ACA is all about, is keeping canyoneers safe. Like I said before, if we never have another injury or fatality, it'll be too soon. So that's why I do what I do. And I encourage people to check the ACA skills lists out and make sure they have those skills under their belt before they go in a canyon, because we want people to enjoy the canyons, but come back safe.
Amen.
Mhm.
Dalfo,
Canyoneer, go out, explore, be safe, train yourself. Yeah, be safe through education, through training. Don't learn everything from forums.
right?
Go seek knowledge, train yourself, practice, and come and bounce and share that knowledge in the forums. That's what the forums are there for. The forums are there for a reason, but it's not to learn everything from there.
Right. There's a huge advantage to getting into a class with other people. Not only do you learn from the instructor, but even me as an instructor, sometimes I learn from the students. They bring different things in and different practices that I apply in, and it's huge to get in there and just get hands-on instead of just watching videos or
Yep.
reading forums. It's absolutely vital to get in there hands-on. And I know the ACA does periodically some training sessions up north, correct?
Yes, we do.
And then we do our courses out here in the North Wash area. And
When's your next course, Jared?
so I'm actually doing a basic class on May 25th. We're starting.
Oh,
And
awesome.
on June 4th, I'm doing two of them. They're actually, we were supposed to do our classes in April, our basic class, and because of all the
Oh,
Corona
you
stuff,
postponed it.
yeah, we postponed it. And I split it into two just to accommodate the students from that class a little bit more. So it's a good time to get in if any of those
And
dates.
that one you do on site in North Wash?
This is the first year we're doing them on site in North Wash. We're moving it
Oh,
over
awesome.
there. Trying it out. I think it'd be pretty advantageous to get in there instead of just being here in town and doing
Right.
stuff.
So if someone wanted to sign up for that, where would they go?
Just our website, northwashoutfitters.com, and follow the links for the basic class.
Awesome. Yeah, that's some good training to get.
Yeah. And at that, I think I just echo everything you guys have said, and appreciate you both coming on, and
Thanks for putting
Likewise,
this
my
together.
friend.
Yep.
so we will call it, sign off, and look forward to catching y'all out in the canyon someday.
All right, Jared.
All right, be safe.
Yeah, my friends.
See you.